All right, we are live. Hello, I am Beelzebub, and welcome to my channel. And today, hopefully this isn't everybody, but we are going to be shit-talking the Prophet Muhammad and drawing the Prophet Muhammad in response to the European Court of Human Rights declaring that insulting the Prophet Muhammad is not free speech. So if everybody else wants to introduce themselves and maybe take a little dig at the Prophet, piss be upon him.
Okay, I am the Lavender Lady, and a cattail is in front of me. I happen to do a lot of response videos. One of my favorite targets is Catholic Answers because I'm an ex-Catholic, basically. And Sylvia, please be nice. And Sylvia is the kitty that has me, by the way, and she's a dear. Okay, next.
Go ahead, Evan.
Come on now. Make me go. I'm Evans Murphy, otherwise known as the Faithless Southerner. Is that a revelation?
Yes.
So,
Did I do a Saturday shout out for you?
I don't know. Maybe. Anyways, that's it. YouTube channel is still young, but we'll be getting content soon. And Mohammed is a illiterate piece of shit.
Yeah, definitely.
Or was an illiterate piece of shit. Luckily, he's dead.
And a pedophile, by the way.
Yeah, and a pedophile. So, screw him. All right, Duke, to you.
All right. I am the Duke of all bonanzas. I am a high priest of the Church of the Risen Macho Man, Randy Savage. I live in Florida. I was asked to describe it recently, which I said it was hot, moist, and there's a lot of camouflage for no apparent reason. I don't make YouTube videos, but I am occasionally allowed on a stream where I behave like a buffoon.
Sounds like an episode.
Oh yeah, and I'm sorry, I forgot the last part of it. Mohammed likes his ladies like he likes his scotch. 12 years old and mixed up with Coke.
Love it.
Let me write that down.
Oh, damn.
We're all gonna die.
That is a true statement.
That is an inevitability.
Oh my!
Just how is becoming more and more apparent the longer this stream goes.
Okay, Evans, I looked at my channel, and I guess not. The shout out I did was for the skeptical Southerners, so I'm going to have to do another shout out for the faithless Southerners.
There you go.
Okay,
It was
There you go.
ludicrously
thank you.
more difficult than I imagined to actually come up with a name, and then I just go by my real name anyway. So because I'm
Well, there you go, man.
fearless like that, who cares?
I got my name from a porn star name generator meme. It said, "What's your porn star name?" The first name is the name of your pet. The second name is the name of the street you grew up on. Our dog is Duke. I grew up on Bonanza Drive. Duke Bonanza.
Okay, fine.
That's gotta be a made up street name.
And okay, as long as we're doing that, my name, my actual name, the name people know me by and wish they didn't know me by, is Diana Clarion. But I became the Lavender Lady because of Lavender's reference to queer, LGBT. Because I mean, as the world already knows, I'm a lesbian trans woman. So that's where that fits.
I had no idea the color lavender was associated to the queer community. I learned something today.
Oh, yay! Wow!
I never learn anything.
I think it's a rather old association, if you will, meaning it probably predates you guys.
More than likely.
Okay.
I'll buy it.
Well, I predate you guys. I'm pretty sure of that. I'm the matron around here. I'm matron of the internet.
Well, I mean, I am only 32, so I'm not too old.
Oh, I remember 32.
So do I. It was a
You
rough
are
time.
you
Yeah,
are
see.
a little over half my age.
So how old does everybody think that I am? Just out of curiosity.
27.
I'd say around 30.
Well, Evans, I'm actually gonna say you're about 26.
Oh, come on now. I'm 28. Y'all were close. Wasn't
Okay.
bad.
I weigh in at 61.
So I'm the youngest here.
40.
40? I wouldn't have guessed
Yep.
that. Of course, I've only ever heard your voice, but
Well, that means you don't follow my Twitter.
I follow your Twitter. I don't think I've ever seen any pictures of you on there, though.
I put them on there.
It's really interesting though. Being an old lady online, I don't get a lot of the references that go around, and it's kind of amusing at times. You know, I'll sit there, what? And then people have to explain things to me.
Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, okay.
That's what gets me
Yeah.
through it, because I don't know half of what people are saying either. They'll have some new reference that's totally foreign to me, and I'll be like, I have to go find out what this is.
Shit. The last thing I had in Urban Dictionary was soy boy. And I've already forgotten what the fuck it is.
Oh, and I was just going to ask you. Damn it.
It's an effeminate male.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
I've never
But
understood why that's a pejorative. I mean, I embrace both the feminine and the masculine sides of my personality. I will sashay around. I don't give a shit.
there you go.
Okay, so I have learned something today. The day is not a waste.
All right. So for anyone watching now or in the future, is where was this? I want to say somewhere in Austria. Yeah, a 47-year-old from Vienna, being known only as Mrs. S, went to the European Court of Human Rights, and they upheld the lower court of Vienna in convicting her for, I guess, hate speech for saying Mohammed was a pedophile, even though when he married Aisha, who, you know, according to him is his favorite, she was 6. But at the very least, he didn't fuck her until she was 9. So
Good for him.
clearly
Great
not a
guy.
pedophile.
Great
That
guy.
shows an enormous amount of self-control.
Yes.
He should have written one of those positive self-reinforcement books.
Like the Quran.
Yeah,
No,
there's
he's like
nothing
Trump.
about
He had
the
that
Quran.
ghost written for him because he's illiterate.
he couldn't write that because, you know, he couldn't write. But you whatever. Freaking.
Yeah,
He's my least favorite religious leader from the ancient days.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
pretty awful.
Like, you know, Jesus was bad enough, but occasionally, at least things that were attributed to Jesus, you know, had some wisdom to them. But Muhammad said so much stupid shit during his career that,
Oh yeah.
I mean, you could clearly tell, because I've read the Quran, and you can clearly tell he's just making it up as he goes along. Like, just like here, I'm going to pull this out of left field.
Well,
You
didn't
know?
he steal half of it from the Christian Bible anyway?
Well, a lot of it is because it's
Lot
an
of it.
Abrahamic religion. He just claimed to be another prophet like Jesus, you know, which is a great thing. Joseph Smith did it later on, and it's a great success. But yeah, it's like copying somebody else's copied homework.
Well, more or less.
And
But
they
I mean,
told two friends, and they told two friends, then they told two friends.
That's like a generational game of telephone. But I mean, at the very least, she didn't have too severe a punishment. I mean, all she had to pay was 480 euros in fines plus legal fees, but that still shouldn't have been a fucking thing, you know, and there's the
My
There's the
word.
link that I'm looking at right now for the story. You know, but I mean that's the point of free speech. Okay, so for a fucking court that calls itself a human rights court, it's doing more damage to human rights to, squash free speech than, protecting an ideology, which I don't think ideologies should have rights. They should be able to stand up on their own. They shouldn't need violence to back them up.
Right.
That's true. That's true. And when it comes down to the blasphemy laws thing, like I'd gotten into it. I think it was with I can't never say his name right, but Andrew Stradaleas or whatever his name is, however you say it.
Fuck
I got
that
into it
dude.
with him about that. Yeah, in the neck twice with whatever implement you can get your hands on. But he was trying to make the case that blasphemy laws are fine because blasphemy is a form of libel. To which it's like, no, in order to accomplish that, you have to have a government that accepts that God, and really specifically a certain God, is real off the bat. Because you can't apply the same rights you apply to a person to a fake entity that doesn't exist or can't be proved.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that all of us are unfortunately in a country that claims that business entities are actual people. So that's not that far away.
Yeah,
the business
potentially
entities actually,
immortal, intangible
exist.
things are not people.
Yeah, they actually exist, and I think that's more as also a method of holding them accountable.
Well, in other words, corporations are people for the purpose of using money as speech, which really, well, in my opinion, which doesn't mean dick really, kind of flushed us down the electoral toilet.
Yeah,
A little bit.
I see that.
Yeah, I really miss the days of equal time.
Yeah.
Back when, if you had a candidate, a Republican candidate, let's say, with a minute ad, the Democratic opponent had to have a minute for equal time.
Yeah.
This was well before super delegates and all this other happy stuff. Oh well, what are you gonna do?
Not much, because the not only are we only have a two-party system that's likely never going to get cracked, you have people in both parties that control the party down to the
Yeah.
minute detail. So it's not like we as the people have very little control over what happens. Period.
Yeah, I was about to say how much worse can it get, but unfortunately, I have a feeling we're going to find out.
That's not a line you want to test.
Yeah, right, definitely. I mean, I am so happy, really I am, that I have more life behind me than ahead of me. I actually, please don't take this the wrong way. I actually feel sorry for you guys, because when things go to total shit, you've got to live through more of it than I do.
Yeah, I don't know. I remain optimistic about the future.
I try. I really do.
So I think that there's, especially on the political end of things, there's a pendulum that swings. And I think we've gone from the left, which used to be significantly less radicalized than it is now. We swung back to the right, but we'll see. We'll see. The upcoming election will be a good earmarker for what's going on. The problem is the polarization in every facet of life. Not even really the political entities. We've lost the ability to have conversations with each other.
The middle ground is gone.
Yeah.
Middle ground is that. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. Is it completely gone, or have we? Because I run into people all the time that I meet in the middle, and so my question is like, you've got the extremists on the right, you've got the extremists on the left, and they seem to live in a very small percentage. But they're screechingly loud. I mean, they're just the loudest, most obnoxious people in the world. And because they're so vitriolic, they get like blasted through a megaphone. So that's all you hear. I'm curious to find out if the general average American person is as polarized as they seem.
And honestly, I don't know if we can find out, because if things are as I think they are, the people that are not polarized are keeping their mouths shut.
Yeah, for fear of being lambasted and having their name spread all over the internet and being called things that they're not.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Woo!
well, I mean, and that even, and I would even meet a Muslim in the middle ground, even though they believe in their stupid ass prophet, who was illiterate and a pedophile. Since that's what the stream is about, I think that we should give them fair treatment as well, as far as conversation goes, even though they're absolutely idiotic to follow such a dipshit.
I'll
Anyway,
give
Duke,
I'll
can
give
you imagine?
anybody fair treatment in as much as they give me fair treatment. It
Yeah,
depends
well,
on what the opening statement is. If somebody comes out the gate with a bunch of just ignorant, batshit crazy ideologies, there's no middle ground to be had at that point. They're already on the extreme, so I just go on attack mode. But if I've
yeah, well,
got
no, at
somebody
that
who's
point,
willing to
ridicule is
have a
the only.
conversation,
Yeah, once you get to that point, I think ridicule is uh, the only path forward. And not only for them, because I don't think that you're going to change their minds, but for the people that might be following them or people that might be on the fence about what they're
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. The polarization in general is rough, and that's why one of the reasons that I am deciding to do the whole Twitter and sort of activist, atheist, be out kind of thing, because there's a severe lack of reasonable voices, you know, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duke, when you mentioned the thing earlier with regard to the polarization, that brought to my mind the whole thing around Lawrence Krauss and how people reacted to him. If you didn't absolutely hate him, you were vilified, no matter who you were or what you thought. And let's see, what else was there? There was another big issue around that time. I'm trying to remember what it was. It had it had something to do with internals. Was it Silverman or was it something else?
yeah,
Oh yeah, David
Run around
Silverman,
with David Silverman.
president of American Atheists.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was accused and fired for sexual misconduct.
Yeah, and if you didn't take a position on him, you were vilified. Shit, I mean, Seth Andrews, the original, really, really, really nice guy, was having to defend himself from slings and arrows simply because he was waiting to hear more before he made a decision. Come on,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
that is
having more
absolutely
information can never be a bad thing.
That is absolutely true. I mean, if the expectation anymore is to accept anything, any accusation made should be accepted at face value until proven otherwise. When realistically, the intelligent thing to do is to just wait for the appropriate evidence that shows one way or the other.
Yeah,
This idea that convicting people in the in the free world before they even have a trial or anything like that is completely antithetical to everything about the American way.
Well, I think it's the court of social justice or social media, and the impacts that social media are having on our society in general are very poorly understood. And so and I view it as only something that's increasing the polarization, because it gives radicals a.
oh my, what's going on out there?
What's this thing?
Oh, sorry. One moment.
Yeah,
Duke's being obnoxious again.
it gives radicals a bigger outlet to vent their shitty beliefs, and then it's so easy to take a side. And it's one of those things, and I was thinking to myself, like, if Lawrence Krauss did those things, if he was found out to be guilty and, got canned from his university and was disgraced forever, would that make me enjoy his books any less? Is one, and I think especially whenever it comes to artists and things like that, like, these are the tough questions that we're not asking ourselves. Like, does sexual misconduct completely erase his career as a physicist? And so, and I'm not even sure where I stand on that, because at one point, that's a reprehensible thing to do, but at the same time, I don't know, it's tough.
I just saw recently, maybe 1 or 2 days ago, that Lawrence tweeted that he was retiring, and he was retiring and not finding another position somewhere else, in part, at least as he put it, because of the allegations that were made against him. Um, I'm trying to remember if he actually said he wasn't sure if he could find work somewhere else. I'm going to have to look up the tweet, but he is retiring. And he did mention the allegations in there, and I think the retirement is part of the allegations. And another thing, we lost a perfectly good senator to such allegations. And I don't even know that they are founded. Because as far as I understand it, Al Franken was photographed pretending to do something that is considered a no-no 35 or 40 years ago.
It's so strange, and which we're wildly off the subject of Muhammad, but you know the climate around it, because it's like James Gunn's firing from the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, he made some really stupid, shitty jokes several years ago, and then gets canned for them. And like, yeah, they were disgusting, non-humorous jokes, but at the same. So what now?
This is Al Franken.
No. James Gunn,
James
the
Gunn,
director of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay. I missed
writer, and so he made some terrible jokes, bouncing back and forth on Twitter. And at what point in time do we hold people eternally accountable for one stupid thing they've said? Like, that's one bad thing about the internet, is like, even in these streams, I'm worried that I'm going to say something that's immortalized that is incredibly dumb.
Yeah. Well, I mean, shit. You wouldn't even have to look that far back in my own personal Facebook feed, which I'm not going to put on here incidentally because.
No.
Well, I want to keep my Facebook, private. Just actual close friends and family, and you guys can all have at my Twitter and YouTube. I don't care about that, but a little bit of personal space is a good thing occasionally.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have to go that far back into my Facebook feed to when I was, before, I came over to the left, I was more of a libertarian. And before that, I was, a pretty hardcore Republican. And, there were all the bits of baggage that, come with that shit, and
that sounds familiar.
I will definitely admit to the fact, and have admitted to the fact, that I've said some shitty stuff, when I was younger. So should I be held accountable? Well, I mean, to a degree, yes, I should be held accountable for it, but I kind of feel like I did that to myself by changing my views to, something that more accurately reflects reality.
Right. Well, here's the question that I have for this situation, right? Like, are we trying to change people's minds on subjects, or just beat them into silence? Because if somebody makes a faux pas, or says something that they shouldn't say or whatever, right? There's a point where there should be some form of learning experience from that. And if they change their position, then they've changed their position. You know what I mean? Like, if you're holding somebody eternally accountable for anything that they've said, you're directly taking out of account the fact that people in their own personalities evolve over the entire course of their lives. They become a different person over and over and over again. And if you take that out of the equation, it's like, at what point are we just convicting people and kicking them out of the world because they, especially if you're going back years and years, you know what I mean? Like,
well, that was the interesting thing with David Silverman. I don't know if any of y'all read his response, but the allegations happened several years ago, and he very eloquently said, "Look, these things happened. I'm not proud of them. I'm ashamed of them. In fact, after they happened, I went and got therapy," and he listed all of the corrective action steps that he took to rectify that part of his being, and how he evolved through time to be a better person, and how he accepts what he did, but he changed himself, and then there weren't any more, and the proof's in the pudding. Once trust has been broken, it takes a long time to build it back up. But there weren't any more allegations recently, within the past few years. These were from like 2007 or 2009, and I may be getting the dates wrong. But, I thought then that was really, where do you draw the line on things that you should be held accountable for? I mean, obviously, sexual misconduct's a big thing, but like you were saying earlier, like I used to be a hardcore conservative fundamentalist Christian across the board, and so should I be held accountable to that? And the people in the movement or in the atheist community realize that kind of gradual filtration that takes place, and so nobody's going to come up and say, well, you used to believe that the flood was literal, so you can't be part of our group anymore, screw you. But I'm not going to be the same person in 10 years than I am now.
I get the feeling that a lot of people don't like change, people changing their opinion, unless it is to agree with them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at me. I was another hardcore Republican. Shit, I voted for Gerald Ford in 1976, the first time I voted, and maintained that Republican stance until, for Christ's sake, I think about 2001, until I became a libertarian, and then ended up dropping that for the Democratic Party in 2014. My being a Democrat is rather recent. And get ready for this. Back in the past, I was an actual homophobe, a real homophobe. I was afraid of queers. And look at me now.
Oh shit!
I actually felt fear. I don't know if it was that I was afraid that some guy was going to hit on me. I think that might have been a large part of it. But I mean, even that, if I were still doing the guy thing, I think my attitude toward that would be a lot different now than it was then. And when I'm talking about then, I'm talking, say, 40 years ago or so. So it's been a while since I've been that way, had that position.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because where do you draw the line on things that should follow you forever? And these are the conversations that we're not having. Period. It's just you got one side screaming that we should wait for more evidence, and then you got the other side screaming, "Holy crap, they did it!" And the answer's got to be somewhere in the middle,
Yeah, it depends on which side too. Like, which side the person that's accused on, as to which side screaming that they did it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, if it's a Republican, the left is going to automatically say, "Yeah, he's guilty."
Yep.
If it's a liberal, the right's going to say, "Yeah, this man is guilty." And so, and also, this is an unpopular thing to ask, but like, at what point are these things on a spectrum, or are they not on a spectrum? Like, are something, obviously some things are more egregious than other things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
like I don't know, like flat out. I mean, or are they all just equal? Would we just say they're all equal? It's like it's an interesting question, because it seems like the consensus these days is that everything is exactly the same. Like, all of it is exactly the same. It should be treated the same. But we don't necessarily do that with like theft or even murder. You know what I mean?
No, and it's, well, and I wrote a blog post on this. It was the whenever Roy Moore was running for the Senate in Alabama. And
of
course, I was never a Roy Moore fan from the very beginning. I didn't like the dude, because of a plethora of reasons that I won't get into. And then all the rape allegations started. And I had to check myself, because the first rape allegation that I heard from him, I was like, I knew it. That guy's he's a creep. But then I had to say, hey, hold up just a second. If this were somebody that I was fond of, would my reaction be different? And so I had to reserve judgment. But what really blew my mind about that whole scheme was the people that said, hey, even if he did it, I want him as my senator because of his Christian values. And that just blew my mind. It's like
what Christian values?
Yeah, it's like the Trumpites that
they are Christian values. Well,
that is true. And it's like the MAGAtards that and the Christian, the fundamentalists, you know, it's 40 or 70% of evangelicals, or it's higher than that, I think 70 to 80% of evangelicals are for Trump.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and then whenever you roll it back, and it was Clinton doing things that were less egregious, like none of the evangelicals supported him. Impeaching, get rid of him. We cannot have a sexual predator or somebody that would dare cheat on their wife in office. And fast forward to Trump, and everybody knows he's screwing porn stars. You know?
It's personal. We have no business knowing about that.
Yeah, it's personal. We have no business knowing about it. So it's definitely, you know, and I it's one of those things that I try to view everything objectively, but dang, you know, come on.
I mean, I was still really, really young when the Clinton thing was going on, but my perception now wants to believe that it was more to do with the potential abuse in power, you know, because there was a power dynamic there. You know, on the one hand, you've got Bill Clinton, president of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, and on the other, you have an intern.
Yeah. No, for sure. And then there was the lies that were tangled up in it and the whole thing. And I'm not saying that Clinton should be absolved. I think that, you know, there were some egregious things that went on, but the support runs via party lines, not via ethical boundaries.
Right.
And so, and that's something that we have to get away from across the board, you know.
And I tried to do a video on it a while back, and I wasn't very successful. I may have to try to do another one. Why is it that it takes allegations of sexual misconduct to galvanize anyone into action as far as opposing someone who should have been opposed in the first place? Let's look at Roy Moore. It took those allegations of him fooling around with underage girls, where he had already abused his seat on the Alabama Supreme Court bench. Total, yes, twice, absolutely.
Fired from the Alabama Supreme Court twice for breaking the law.
Yes,
you know, if there's anything more ironic. Yeah, and I think that people think with their emotions. I think you could definitely say that, and I think that it's one of those. It has to be something so egregious that it really builds a moral response, some sort of an outrage. Gosh, who's the guy? Ryan Holiday refers to it as outrage porn, and I think that's very fitting. Okay. You know, where it's something that can really grab you by the heartstrings, and nobody likes child rapists, and so if we can pin child rape on somebody, we can nail them. And the Democrat and the left is good at weaponizing that. Like, and it's something that probably should be weaponized, but maybe not whenever it comes to light. It's kind of like the thing with Ford. You know, I feel so bad for that lady with the Kavanaugh hearings because you know she's brought in right at the last second as a clutch whenever it looks like he's going to be not confirmed, and then whenever it doesn't pan out, you just to heck with her. Like, you're weaponizing somebody's. If her story was true, and I tend to believe her because I watched both sides of the testimonies, that's not something that needs to be weaponized. You know, absolutely across the board. Sexual assault is not a political game chip.
I mean, this is going to follow that poor lady for the rest of her life.
Yeah,
speaking out she's going to get the death threat. She's going to get the what word am I looking for? Bad things. Let's put it that way. Simply because she spoke out about what had happened to her. But yes, I do believe her. And this is the interesting thing, is that wasn't even necessary, because what should have put the kibosh on Kavanaugh was the way he melted down following Thursday. The conspiracy theories and everything. Who was the former Supreme Court Justice? 92-something years old or so. That said, I had originally liked this guy, and now I'm thinking, no, we should not confirm him because he melted down. I forget the man's name, for Christ's sake. He had it on point. It's that meltdown that should have done it, if nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's essentially a job interview, and he failed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, were I to go
I
the
definitely
way
would
he
not
did.
get a job if I said I liked beer in the interview.
Well, that too.
Depends on what job you're going for.
Brewery, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I mean anybody that acts like he did, and like I understand it, that's a stressful position, but he should have been disqualified from the damn start because of his credentials and his record as a judge. You know,
Well, yeah,
he
wasn't
doesn't
there
give a
the
crap
question?
about the Fourth Amendment. You know, he
Wasn't
said that
there
the
the question?
NSA spying on everybody's great. Should be encouraged. You know,
Wasn't there the question of his lying under oath in those confirmation hearings?
Yeah, no, and lying under oath in other instances as well. Like he's nothing but a political game piece, and
right.
of the Trump administration. And so that's the thing. That's even before anything else came off, whenever he came up on the short list of candidates, I thought, holy crap! You know, I did a little research, and you know, this guy's not somebody we want on the Supreme Court. You know, he's bypassing Roe v. Wade, and he's doing some shady stuff, and he doesn't support First Amendment well, and he dang sure doesn't care about the Fourth Amendment, and all of these things. But to actually galvanize people to action, it took some sort of a moral response, and I think it's largely, I think that people just don't care about politics that much, and I think a lot of that has come from the encouragement that we don't talk politics and religion. Which is one of the most poisonous ideas to free exchange that has ever existed. You know,
I kind of think a lot of it has to do with exhaustion too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, people on the right are exhausted from, 8 years of opposing Obama. The left is exhausted from kind of 8 years of opposing Obama, when he took his corporatist stances, and the past 2 years opposing pretty much every single thing Trump does. But we've managed to get way off topic, so why don't we...
trying to reel us in?
let's try reeling back into, the...
Can I make a statement on the subject, and then before we move on?
Yeah, one last thing, then we get back to Mohammed and free speech.
Well, how about two last things?
Okay.
Let's let do his thing.
I think one of the things that when I look at the Supreme Court, I'm less concerned about what side of politics somebody is on as I am about their record as being objective in terms of the law. You know, if somebody has a good record of being an objective judge in terms of the law, then I feel like I can trust.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what it's
objective about the concept.
I mean, where's William Howard Taft when you need him? But Bill Beelzebub, if I may quickly, over your right shoulder on the bookshelf, do I see a Catholic catechism?
You do.
Oh, right.
You really do.
I have been diving into that recently because I have been thinking of reviewing it the way Shives reviews books.
See, I don't actually know anything about Steve Shives. Like, I'm pretty sure Mrs. Snarky is blocked by him, if I'm remembering the right person.
Pretty sure she is, yes. A lot of people are. Somehow I have not been. I don't know how that worked.
I got blocked. But of course I got blocked. I'm never surprised when I get blocked.
I mostly use the catechism for doctrinal support when, I'm doing my criticisms of the Catholic Church, just to say, hey, I'm not pulling this out of my ass, or, from Google. This is literally from their book of doctrine.
Yeah, that's the one. Believe this.
Ironically, I don't own a Bible, though.
That's interesting.
I have like 5.
Yeah, I've got more than I can count.
I've got 4 or 5 of them. I also have a Book of Mormon. I have Bhagavad Gita. Let's see, the Quran. There was a set that I got years ago from Book of the Month Club, of all damn things, which included some of the holy books, well, it was a set of holy books, and if I remember correctly, we had the Torah, Quran, Bhagavad Gita, Analects of Confucius. There was another one in there, and I can't.
Tao Te Ching.
New Testament, and Tao Te Ching was another one. Yes, it was.
That's a good one. I actually like the Tao Te Ching.
Yeah, I could be a Taoist if I had to be something.
I could not be any of it. I am so made that I cannot believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, it would take. It would literally take, God standing in front of me and somehow proving that it's God for me to believe in it. Otherwise,
you mean
bunk.
you mean you wouldn't be convinced by our friendly friend Mohammed? Come on now.
Speaking of which, no, Evans, you bring us right back where we need to be.
Yeah,
actually, by
see,
showing
look at
that
that.
drawing.
I drew Mohammed.
Hold on. Okay, one sec. Go
I
ahead.
think he's a cute dude.
I think that's actually a probably better drawing than I can do.
Yeah, well, I was inspired by Neil's drawing. I didn't put a whole lot of effort. I can actually draw pretty well, but I don't think that shitty prophet's worth my skill. So, to hell with him. There he is, lazy eye and all.
See, I've got the idea, but I don't think it's a good idea because the idea would have been, him and Aisha. That's just not good.
Yeah, see, I didn't want to get your channel banned, so I kept mine PG-13.
Yeah.
Well, what I wish I had the talent for, I wish I had the talent to draw Muhammad the way Picasso drew Franco, from some of the artwork he did around the Spanish Civil War. You have Franco walking down the street with his dick coming from the crotch up to about here, and he's got it with both hands in one of these deals. Picasso did not like Franco at all. What can I tell you?
I'm liking Dukes as well. That's far more effort than I would have put into Muhammad. Of course, Duke's muted, so
oh my God!
If he's talking shit, which he is.
Snap! I forgot that I was muted. I muted myself to go in the house and grab it. But yeah, there's my chibi Muhammad. He's adorable, but he'll kill you.
Oh. As soon as it loads, I'll show Neil's drawing of Muhammad. I'm stuck with, shitty college ruled paper. I don't know where the computer paper is, but damn it, that pen's dead. I write too much.
I thought paper notes were dead.
No,
I mean, anything on paper was supposed to have been dead 30 years ago, right?
No, I write all my poetry in a notebook before I do anything else with it. Well, anything that I'm not doing, I could challenge online. Like if there's somebody online that's just like, do this. Like if I'm just writing for a serious piece, I write it in a journal.
But do you write it with a fountain pen? Is the question.
Oh man,
Negative.
I miss fountain pens. I actually used fountain pens in school.
No, there's a resurgent fountain pen community online.
Really?
I'm an avid fountain pen user. So this
I use
my
a precise.
carry.
I use a precise V5.
Oh
Those
man,
are good pens.
in like third grade, fourth grade, we actually used fountain pens in school. They were the cartridge rather than from an inkwell.
Yeah. Yeah, they're fantastic. They're easy to find. They're inexpensive, and that's what I do all my notes in for work and otherwise. This is my daily carry, Lamy Safari, and
I'd have to get my touch back because I'd probably end up with a big ink blotch where I wanted a sentence.
I should have drawn Muhammad in fountain pen, but I don't want to defile my fountain pen like that.
I will.
I'm going to throw this Sharpie away.
I will openly admit to being really old school because I hate, I script all my videos and I hate writing them down on the computer because I don't know. I'm like weirdly technologically illiterate. So, I write down everything first on paper.
Okay.
Then I will. Hang on a second, guys.
I have to use gedit because I edit as I write. So I'd be going through half a ream of paper just to get one script out.
Well, I go through enormous amounts of paper when I write because I write things and then hate them and then snatch them out of my book and throw them away. And like one of my best friends, whenever she's around, she'll get my notebook and take pictures of all my poems because she's like, I know for a fact you're going to throw all of these away.
Oh man!
Because I hate my own work with a passion that would wound God if he existed.
No, I'm not that talented. And Evans, I'm trying to figure out what's over your left shoulder, in what looks like a set of pigeonholes on the wall.
Oh, that's my pipe tobacco, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a occasional pipe smoker, or occasional, not much, but
I'd say aficionado with all that.
well, that's actually there's two of those over there, and then that's a very brief package of my collection. I've got a closet kind of dedicated to it, and then I've got various pipes and things like that.
I used to be a pipe smoker, believe it or not, and I gave that up 3 months ago.
Really?
Yeah, I finally came to the point where I had to quit smoking. It was like, it's time. Well, I was a smoker for 49 years.
Yeah. See, I've never been a avid smoker. I will smoke a pipe and a cigar. This time of the year, I'll usually do it 2 or 3 times a week. In the summer, I'll go a couple of weeks without smoking anything. I do it because of the relaxation aspect of it. There's not a whole lot better than sitting out on the porch and lighting a bowl and tamping and packing and reading a book. It's just it's just fantastic, and the variety of tobacco you can get.
Oh my word!
Outstanding.
Yeah. And always remember that a pipe gives a wise man time to think, and a fool something to put in his mouth.
That's interesting. Sure. That reminds me of what I think it was Socrates that said, "Let a man marry. If he finds a good wife, he's twice blessed, and if he finds a bad wife, he'll become a philosopher."
Yep.
All right, so here is my piss poor drawing of Mohammed. He's yelling Allahu Snackbar, and Aisha is yelling, "Help me!"
Help me! I couldn't do it the way Robin Williams did. Help me! No, that's not high enough.
Poor Aisha. She was the real victim here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have enough good things to say about Mohammed.
By the way, anyone watching this, please feel free to tag me in your drawings of Mohammed on Twitter.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I want to see them.
A while back, I was trying to organize a blasphemy stream, and it didn't go very well, man. Like, everybody was like, I blaspheme all the time. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, I want a concerted effort. I want to get a bunch of people together and to put real effort into seeing which one of us can find the most blasphemous thing we can say about any God figure you want to pick. And it's like, I couldn't get any traction with it.
I would have so been in for that.
Oh, here we go.
I'd definitely be down for it.
Some blasphemy.
Like, did you try to get me in it, or what was?
I didn't know
my
you yet.
excuse?
You weren't on the scene quite yet. It was back when I first went on Neil's stream and did my deconversion thing, and then I was putting it out there. People, it was more or less like, why would we do that when we just do that all the time anyways? I was like, because it would be fun. And I was really like dealing with all that red pill religion crew back then. So it was just like, that would be just fantastic to just get on there and slam God as hard as possible and then just tweet it out and tag every one of those bastards with it. And then go watch their stream, enjoy the fun times that happen in their reaction to it.
Well, here's a good one for you. Catholics may believe Mary is a virgin, but after a good night with me, she'll be all worn out.
The one I like was a introduction at a Peter, Paul, and Mary concert. You had, "Hi, I'm Peter. I'm not the apostle. Hi, I'm Paul. I'm not the apostle. Hi, I'm Mary, and you know I'm not a virgin."
Yeah, I want to create a. I'd like to create a masturbatory device out of mold of the hands of the Messiah.
There's no way that hasn't been done yet. There's no way. And if it has, like, you need to copyright that right now.
You get a hand job from Jesus.
Yeah, but would it go through the navel hole
man.
or in the praying hands? I'm
Talk
confused.
about blasphemy.
Oh, either one of those would be fantastic.
So it'd be
Well,
like
you could have
reversible?
both.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Different textures.
Talk about blasphemy. Remember the kid who got, what was his sentence for simulating a blowjob from Jesus at the
Yes,
statue?
that is one of the most. That is one of the most. I have very rarely been so angry. It was in the North or Midwest somewhere, I think, and friends took a picture of the guy humping the face of a kneeling Jesus, and he got. I think he only got like community service, but the fact that he was convicted at all
Mm-hmm.
in the United States of America is unbelievable. Yeah. And even back when I was a Christian guy, even back when I was a hardcore fundamentalist and I believed, that would have made me mad, because it's like, even back then I still respected the separation of church and state, not just because people have the right to choose, but also for the protection of both sides. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
It should function in a way that protects both religious belief and the right to religious belief and the right to disbelief. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're a better man than I was. I was of the mind that, fuck that. Catholics should be on top.
Little boys?
Whoops.
Well, if they're boys, they always are, aren't they? I mean, that's the only way that you can do it, isn't it?
You mentioned that.
The man has to be on top.
back in the day, I was an altar boy, and amazingly enough, I never was molested. I kind of felt left out.
Yeah.
There you go.
Did the priest not think I was pretty?
Yep. Yeah, that would upset me as well. Yeah, luckily I wasn't an altar boy, but if I wasn't picked to be diddled, I'd wonder what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Oh.
What's going on with that? I'm not pretty enough? Yeah. I'm not pretty enough for you?
Come on, man.
Oh.
I've been a naughty boy, father.
I heard this. Okay, so here's a good one. I heard this joke many, many years ago, and I can't believe I can't recall ever telling it as an atheist. Why is it that, like stereotypically in movies, the altar boy's hair is parted side to side in the middle?
I don't know.
There's the priest standing behind him, inside him, going, "It's not a sin. It's not a sin. It's not a sin."
Oh man.
I had this joke. It got me in trouble on Facebook one time.
No.
What was happening was back when I first got separated from my ex-wife, and I was on the dating scene. So I was like talking to a whole bunch of different people, and I was fooling around on Facebook at the same time. And the war on Christmas crap came up, and I always have this one joke that I tell when that comes up that I think is funny, but they never think it's funny. But I screwed up because I only accidentally put the first part, and then I fell asleep. So I woke up the next day, and it was just the first part of the joke. And I was like, this is unsalvageable. At this point, it looks like I'm backpedaling. But the joke goes, I don't know why everybody has such a big problem with Jesus. If I were on the subway next to him, I'd totally give him a hand job. He's the hottest Mexican guy I've ever met.
Oh, shit.
Oh, man, you would hear me laughing, but unfortunately I had my mic turned off there.
Holy hell.
Actually, there's something else. We were coming on here originally to talk about Muhammad. Um, why do you guys think there's such a pro Islamic stance on the left?
I really can't figure that out.
I mean, they're antithetical to everything the left believes, down to the very minute detail. I mean, everything. And yet there's like some kind of weird ideology around it that's like, we need to protect this group of people. And I don't get it.
We really don't, though.
Could it be the...
Go ahead.
Oh, could it be the inclusivity thing? We have to be inclusive, and they are somebody else, so we have to include them. I don't know.
So my personal theory, and this is just me saying things that are probably incredibly stupid. It's something I do often. My personal theory would be that for practically ever, the left has stood for minority rights. And especially in the wake of 9/11, with the abhorrent things that were done to more peaceful Muslims, it really ramped up that. But especially in America, on the left, Muslims are a minority. And as such, they receive almost a sacred status, regardless of what they do. And I think that the corrosion of local politics, of American politics, causes people who are on the left to view Islam as kind of a minority thing, because it's a minority over here. So we really need to protect these people that are being unfairly persecuted. But in reality, Islam is not a minority. It's a super majority in the grand scope of things. And if it's on the same track, it'll beat out Christianity and not many years soon. At all. And so I think that's at least my read on it, because especially the Islam sympathies kicked up after 9/11, as far as I can tell. And I don't remember 9/11 that well, but at least in the at least in the research that I've done, it seems to be that in the wake of 9/11, there was a lot of abhorrent things done to Muslims. And as such, they kind of became a protected in-group, similar to other people of color. And then from that, it extended and got stuck in a positive feedback loop. And now Islam is sort of viewed as sacred by the left because of those things.
Well, I mean, I have...
Though,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay.
After you! No, after you!
We're not Canadian here.
Sketch in a second.
We're not Canadian here. This is not a Canadian stream.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
But, I have no issue whatsoever with, protecting Muslim people, who actually deserve it, non-extremists who aren't beheading people. I have no problem with protecting innocent people, but I look at Islam the same way I look at any form of Christianity or any other religion out there. Ideologies don't deserve protection. People do.
And that's something the left gets terribly wrong, because the left often conflates beliefs with the identity of a person. And to some degree they are, but and the right does it too. People do it in general. But just because I criticize your beliefs doesn't mean that I dislike you as a person.
Yeah. Well, no, I remember, I don't know if it's still going on, but the massacre of the Muslims by the Buddhists in where was that at? I can't think of the name of the country.
You're killing me.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, there was a huge massacre. There were some extremists, but the Buddhists in this country were going in and just killing everybody, and they had put landmines along the border.
Sri Lanka?
So that when the kids, yep, that's it. So when the kids, I was going to say Sri Lanka, but I couldn't remember it exactly. But when the kids would try to sneak over the border to get food in the night, they would get blown up by landmine. It's just horrific. And I'm all about stopping that. I don't care that it's happening to Muslims. I don't like that it's happening to anybody.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean we have to be. Yeah, it doesn't mean we have to be dishonest about how about the effect that Islam has on society on a worldwide range, just across the board. We don't have to be dishonest about that to say that we need to protect people that are not doing harm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it seems like nobody wants to take that. If you take that hard stance, you're immediately labeled a racist and a bigot. You know, and no matter how many times you try to point out that Islam is not a race, it's an ideology, it's a belief system. You just get shouted down.
Well, that is just like Judaism. People don't get it that Jewish is not a race; it's an ideology. But same thing. And interesting, more or less the same area of the world. Although that's totally coincidental.
Well, I mean, obviously, the creator of the universe liked that little circle in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was pretty fond.
I mean, it's a good circle.
Well, I mean, it's sand, and until the discovery of oil, I'm not quite sure why anybody would live there. But fantastic.
It's the promised land, man.
It's because God's a jackass. It's because God's a jackass. If he was a good guy, he'd have picked San Diego. He'd pick somewhere moderate with a nice climate, and you could get water in there, whatever. You know what I mean? No, he had to pick the desert.
That was the funny thing that Hitchens said at one point, that this God had to reveal himself to a very small group of illiterate sheep herders in the only part of the Middle East that didn't have oil.
Well, that's not true. He revealed himself to Joseph Smith, who was in the Americas.
Well,
I mean,
but he was in New York at the time, not Texas.
Yeah, but we're not going to get in those kind of that's just a detail. Jeez, quit with your facts, lady.
Yeah. As an American, your facts confuse and enrage me.
Okay.
No,
we're from the South. That's doubly true.
That is doubly true in the South.
I have a really good movie for you guys to check out. It's called The Man from Earth, and basically I can't really say that without giving away the entire plot, but there is a scene that has probably my favorite piece of blasphemy in all of cinema in it. And I really think you guys will love it as much as I do. Indigenous DNA, yes, this ruling does undermine freedom of speech. That's why we drew Muhammad, pissed me upon him.
Do we have... Oh, hi, Indigenous DNA. How are you? Have we encountered each other? I don't know if I know you.
I think
I don't recognize him, but
the best
welcome.
picture, though, for Muhammad. I will nominate him for that award.
Well, yeah, he has the best because he spent the most time on it by the looks of it. You literally watched me draw mine in 2 minutes.
I spent about 5 minutes drawing that.
I doodled mine while we were talking about rape, which I think is fitting.
There you go.
Well, I mean, let's see. Where's my camera at? Okay, well, first I had to draw a kitty for my daughter. And then after I got done with that, I went ahead. And I did this one first. I don't know if you guys can see the... And then I settled on... Then I settled on this one. This is my little chibi.
The kitty looks kind of anime-ish.
Yeah, she likes anime. She's a little weeb. So
man.
First I grabbed the deadpan. I totally forgot to give Mohammed a beard. You guys let me fuck up in a big way.
Yeah, well, I wasn't gonna say
it was for the lulz.
I mean...
Well, that's... the absence of the beard is blasphemous enough, you know?
That is true.
Let me get that coffee that's beeping at me.
Now he has a beard. Huzzah.
Hey! Oh, bože moi.
I didn't know you were Russian.
Slovak.
I didn't know that was Russian.
Yeah, that's Russian, Slovak, a couple other languages in that area. Yeah, my babka would always, oh, bože moi, bože moi.
All Indigenous did it. This is actually my first live show, so welcome. Hopefully I'm going to be doing more of these.
Yay! I have something to watch.
I have
Well,
too
I mean,
much to
I
watch,
saw you
man.
just-
I always feel like a jerk because like somebody will be like, "Did you see my video where I did ... And I'm like, "No, actually, it's not that I didn't want to. I was just really super busy and didn't have time."
I know that feeling. Now, I'm subscribed to something over 300 channels, and trying to
Jesus.
get them all is a little bit of work. Let me see how many I'm subscribed to.
Now I'm curious about how many I'm subscribed to.
I don't need to know.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I am subscribed to
Wow.
346 channels.
Jesus.
Basically, what happens is when somebody subscribes to me, I subscribe back because I'm interested in what they've got. And unfortunately, there are so many channels here. So I'm sorry, every one of you, that I don't get you as often as I would like. I mean, right now we've got 3 channels that subscribe are having live streams. I mean, there's this one. There's Catholic Answers, which I could give a shit about them, except to rebut them. And Digital Hammurabi is on right now.
Oh, aren't they great?
They're
Yeah.
fantastic.
Nice.
And I know I violated Pablo Sion's first rule of being on a live stream, but hey, Matt. He's my favorite.
What is his first rule of being on a live stream?
Never
Talk about butt stuff?
never talk about live stream, so people end up going there instead of staying with the original live stream.
Oh. Unless you're Shane, because he's in every live stream all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It is true. That guy gets around.
There's not enough of me to do that, and that's saying a lot. Because damn it, I stood on the scale recently, and I don't want to think about where it's settled.
Yeah, let's not talk about weight.
Yeah, well, when you quit smoking and you have your medications changed around, all in the same month, that's good for about 40 pounds.
I got married.
Oh boy, that's good for, yeah. Good home cooking, huh? Or what?
Well, I do all the cooking, so I can't even fall back on that. But
Well, you cook for her, and then you've got to eat some of it, right?
that is true.
Or is it him? I should not.
No,
I should not
her.
assume your sexuality.
No, you're fine. You're fine. She's not straight, but it is a her.
And me being queer, I really should pay more attention to that, and I don't.
I make a concerted effort, but I fail sometimes too. But I try to make a concerted effort to use like them, they when I don't know or shit like that. But
Yeah,
everybody falls short every once in a while, man. It happens.
Yeah,
to the
I
best
do
of us.
as well. Like I say, my wife she's sexual, and so
who's
it's
sexual?
close, pansexual.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And she came out to everybody on coming out day. So
There
proud
you
of her.
go.
No, I still don't quite understand what that is.
So essentially, she
Pan.
gender expression and biological sex don't matter to her. So she's into people for who they are, not for what their biological sex or what their gender expression or their sexual orientation is.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I mean, there were so many things that could be, panchromatic about the whole thing. I was just wondering.
Yeah, she could do a much better job of explaining it. But essentially, that's my botched explanation.
And there's a term I'll bet a lot of people haven't heard, panchromatic from the old days of Kodak film.
Oh, Kodachrome.
Yeah, panchromatic was a different one to Kodachrome. The Verichrome pan was the one, the black and white film where reds didn't pick up on the film, so they look black.
Oh, okay. I know nothing about photography at all.
Yep.
I saw darker when I was a kid, and I mean, now they're obviated, basically. I mean, well, some people still work with film, but in here I wouldn't have the space, unfortunately. But no, well.
So speaking of, back onto the thing with Islam, I know he's kind of universally hated amongst our groups, but I think that one of the guys that did the best of explaining the actual dynamics of Islam in the Islamic countries to me was Ben Shapiro. I don't know if you guys ever saw the video where he broke it down by Gallup polls and showed all of the different like how they actually voted and what percentages of each of them and how many of them that means and all of that. But it was spot on, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to say something that's probably going to get me labeled as blasphemy in the atheist community. I actually like Ben Shapiro. I don't agree with all of his political beliefs, but I respect the guy's ability to debate and his ability to break down topics. He's a spin master now, but like you say, that is an excellent. His breakdown of the Islamic world is fantastic. So,
I don't hate him, and I don't hate him, and I don't love him. I look at him the same way I look at almost anybody. When he's right about something, he's right, and when he's wrong about something, he's wrong. And I'll just differentiate. But I don't think that necessarily means that. Like, I'll still watch stuff with him every once in a while just to see what his take on something is. He's demonstrably an intelligent little guy.
Now, Matt Walsh is a piece of shit.
Matt Walsh, that name sounds familiar.
He writes for the Daily Wire, and he does video logs, and he is a bigoted, hateful piece of crap that is absolutely oh God, he annoys me to no end. I don't know if anybody's ever come across any of his stuff, but he may end up being the target of some of my channel's content.
Is he worse than Crowder?
Oh, by a long shot. Whoa, man. Crowder, I mean, Crowder's bad enough, but Matt Walsh is he was the one that said that the Catholic Church did not have a pedophilia problem. They had a homosexuality problem.
Oh, jeez. Ow.
That was one of his most recent. Whenever all that was breaking loose, it's not pedophiles, it's homosexuals, because that's the natural conclusion of homosexuality.
So he's basically a Catholic apologist as far as that goes.
Yeah, no, and he takes such a weird stance because he's against the Catholic Church because, of course, he's a Protestant and a Christian, which is weird that him and Ben hooked up or whatever. But his view on it is the sin of homosexuality is what leads to pedophilia.
God, he sounds like
even though it's demonstrably untrue. Demonstrably untrue. I have an article that I have saved that is it's from Psychology Today or one of the two, but it's a guy that broke that down and went through all of the studies to show that it's actually less likely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it also totally ignores the fact that, unfortunately, as disgusting as it is, pedophilia is in of itself asexuality. It's not homosexual or heterosexual. These people do not have attraction to adults. They have attraction to children.
Yep.
Yeah, and when you say that, people are going to jump all over you because, one of the live streams I did a couple months ago when Ken Ham came out with that whole thing, there was a German researcher who did a TEDx talk, I believe it was, about
what was her name?
Man, I will find it because I still have the raw stuff from that live stream.
That's such a that's a complex topic.
Yes, it is.
Totally. I mean, the minor attracted person. It's we've got to be able to have discussions about uncomfortable issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when they're backed with data. Especially when they're backed up by data.
Yeah,
it's extraordinarily uncomfortable. It's disgusting. It's
I cannot remember her first name, but her last name is Heine.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, and we're not having sophisticated discussions about it because everybody knows that psychopaths exist, and sociopaths, and that people have empathy circuits are not there, and we don't assume that every one of them is a mass murderer, and but at the same time, and I like Sam Harris's illustration in Free Will. If you haven't read it, go read it now. As soon as we get off here, it's a brilliant little essay, but it's one of the things that he's talking about, people that are killers or that are criminals across the board. That even though free will in an abstract sense doesn't really exist, if we could jail hurricanes, we would. If we could capture, if a bear mauls somebody, we don't think, oh, the bear committed murder, but we still know that we need to put that bear down, or that we need to imprison the bear to keep it from hurting other people. And we're not having those conversations surrounding uncomfortable topics like pedophilia, like people who are attracted to minors, And these people are not getting the help that they need and are being so repressed that I believe you'd probably, and I think you can make a credible case that they're more likely to act out on their desires because of social pressures, because they don't view themselves as normal, And it's not something that we need to accept, across the board. For anybody watching, pedophilia is wrong and absolutely disgusting.
Right.
Absolutely.
And anybody that does it needs to be incarcerated or worse. But for the people that are minor attracted, that don't act on their desires, should they be thrown in the same basket as, the Catholic priests and Mohammed?
No, absolutely not. I mean, we need nuanced discussions on this, and they need actual help, and I know some people out there are probably going to jump to the idea of chemical castration, but that does more psychological harm than
because that's
necessarily.
At what point does it
cure?
No, because at what point does their I mean, even though their genitals don't work anymore, it doesn't necessarily stop the compulsions. And then on top of that, does that cause the compulsions? And I mean, I'm asking from a like, I'm not making a statement. I'm asking a question. Would that be equated to causing the compulsions to turn into violence? How do you regulate it? I mean, obviously, if somebody has an issue and they want to seek treatment to help themselves with that issue, that should be open. But it's the same like you were saying with psychopaths. Like there's any number of psychopaths out there operating as high functioning psychopaths in the world, but the minute they go murder a bunch of people due to their lack of empathy, we no longer view them as somebody that is safe to be in society. And the same thing can be said of pedophiles. The minute they cross that line, they have to be put away because they're a danger to everyone around them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the first step to solving these difficult problems is not jumping all over everybody that raises them to the forefront. We've got to be able to talk about these things. We've got to be able to have reasonable discussions about them. And as soon as somebody says minor attracted people exist, like I'm sure if this were broadcast to a larger audience, right now I would be labeled as a pedophile apologist. Whenever I just clearly stated that pedophilia is totally wrong across the board, and that people who practice it need to have justice brought against them. But we can't even talk about these things because all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, this person thinks pedophilia is okay. And that's not the case. I acknowledge that people have pedophilic tendencies or they are attracted to minor persons. How we work through that is only going to come through discussion and data. And it's not going to come from shoving that issue back in the closet and pretending these things don't exist.
And there is the claim that by making this such a hot button issue and not talking about it and refusing to talk about it, those that want to talk about it and find help cannot and are more likely to act upon their desires, compulsions, whatever you want to say. If this claim is credible or not, I don't know. It sounds like it could be. But I'd have to look into it more than I have. My training is in behavioral neuroscience, which is why I'm interested in the subject. But what can I tell you?
Well, willpower is.
I've been guilty of shutting down. I've been Yeah, well, it's and from what I understand, it's somewhat tied to ego depletion.
Yeah. Anyways, you were
okay.
saying before I so rudely cut you off.
Who?
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, Duke.
Yeah.
Duke was saying something that he's been guilty of shutting down. I think was where he was at.
Still there, Duke?
We're waiting. Are you running into problems?
Sorry, guys. I got every time I get an incoming call, it kicks me out of the. It like overtakes my
Oh,
headset.
okay.
So
I've
that's
heard of
happened
that
twice.
before.
But I've been guilty of that kind of shutting down the conversation myself. But in that situation, I can think of. I think it was more due to the way the guy approached it, because he was approaching it from like adding pedophiles to the LGBTQ community.
No, shut that.
And I was like,
no,
that needs to shut down. And it was not like I wasn't willing to have the conversation of, if they seek treatment, should there be an open, should they have the ability to seek treatment? But at the same time, yeah, they're ashamed to go do it. But if you go to a mental health professional and you talk to them about these things, any competent mental health professional is going to approach the situation from a desire to help you work through it, and they can't legally get out there and tell anybody about it, because you've got your privacy rights in terms of that. Unless you're going in and telling them you're going to do this or you've committed the crime, they're bound ethically and legally to not tell your business to other people.
I don't know though, especially with pedophilia. It seems, because of course, if they believe that harm is going to be done to somebody, it would be dicey. Not that I'm a minor attracted person, but if I were in those shoes, I could see how a therapist could easily misconstrue urges for tendencies to hurt and take it apart like that. And a large part of that is probably due to our woefully incompetent and unreliable mental health system in America. And the stigma that surrounds it, the taboo, because like getting mental help is viewed as a weakness, as if your brain's not a damn organ. I don't pretend that I'm strong because my heart's having problems. I'm like, I'm not going to go see a cardiologist. Something's going wrong with your head. People are afraid to be labeled as a nut job because they got on anti-anxiety medication,
And
that actually, like, it's stigmatized as mental health is in America overall. It's particularly pronounced in the military. I mean, when I was in the Air Force, it took me months to bother myself to see a psychologist when I was, having issues with depression and, all that fun, wonderful shit, And the reason I didn't go is because I was a cop and they were going to take away my gun if I did, and what good is a cop without a gun? You know what I mean?
Oh, so you were on the ground in the Air Force?
Most of the Air Force is on the ground.
Yeah,
like only 4% is pilots.
I realized. I didn't know if you flew or if you supported. But I was thinking, when I was doing the research for the video I did on that TED Talk and Ken Ham's reaction to it, I remember seeing, and I'm looking for it right now, that allegedly there were some people who saw professionals wanting to get help for their urges, tendencies, whatever you want to call them. And as soon as the word pedophile came up, the professional would say, no, I'm not going to treat you. Go away. Let's see if we can find that so I can back myself up with something more than words. But that's what my memory is telling me anyway. It's going to take a little while to find this. Okay, in the raw section. Continue on, because it's going to take. Oh, Miriam Heine is the person's name, by the way. I found it in the raw footage.
Yeah, I watched the video. Which
I've not seen it. I need to get a look at it.
I mean, I think she approaches it in a reasonable fashion.
Yes, absolutely.
And not.
I think I might
not
be
in
the
the way
only
that she
person
was
who hasn't
portrayed,
seen
for
it.
sure. Because everybody came out and was like, "This lady thinks that pedophiles are okay," and they should be added to LGBT. And no, that's not what anybody's saying.
No.
You know,
Damn
I
it!
mean, they definitely shouldn't be added to the LGBT community because
No.
it deals around consent.
Yep.
Yes.
You know, grown adults are able to say, "Yeah, let's do stuff to each other's fun bits." You know,
Well,
a little kid can't do that.
it's also working to it's all LGBTQ is also working towards creating these entities as a protected class under the United States Constitution. You know what I mean? Like that's a goal of that. So you can't add something like pedophiles into that because they can never be a protected class. Not in the same way that trans rights can or gay rights can or any of the other things.
No,
Well,
because
Duke.
by very nature they're consent violators. I mean, you know.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the current administration is trying to undo some of those protections. By the way,
No.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, a
I didn't
downside
see
is
that one coming.
well, they're
as
trying
far
to
as
write trans folk out of Title IX at the very least.
yeah. As far as I know, has any of the sexual orientation or gender identity been added into the explicit protected classes under the Constitution? Because as far as I knew last
No,
night I
not
checked it, they weren't.
No.
There's
not
been
that
some
I know of.
victories.
No.
There's been some victories, but they've always won those victories on the backs of another protected class,
Right.
like sex is protected, like your biological sex is protected, and so I think there's been people that have won for sexual discrimination, and there's been people that have won. I think there's been one victory based on just sexual orientation, and one of the judges that dissented in that case had said, "We're reinterpreting the law. They're not actually an explicitly protected class." So, one of the goals of fighting for the LGBTQ community is to get this in legislation to where they are a written, explicitly protected class under the Constitution of the United States of America, and they cannot be discriminated against. And pedophiles can't be included.
Right, and what's unfortunate about the inclusion of any class to any anti-discriminatory legislation, anything like that, the moment you define rights, how was it that I put it before? Defining rights necessarily limits them. So somebody doesn't like me because I'm trans. If anti-trans discrimination is written into legislation, they'll find some other reason to discriminate against me because they didn't like me in the first place. That sort of thing. So it's unfortunately that's all human nature, and you cannot legislate human nature. I wish you could.
You can't, but having very distinct lines drawn in the concrete is a good step in the right direction.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's really all we've got. You cannot count on anybody to be nice and perfect and all nicey all the time. No, that's not going to work. It just doesn't happen. We've got these things called limbic systems where emotions live.
Well, yeah, anybody that knows me knows that's not true. I'm not nice at all. So, oh shit. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting conundrum. It's a hard subject because it is inherently so disgusting. You know what I mean? It is in and of its own self, just inherently a disgusting thing. And so like how do you deal with it pragmatically? Because it's a difficult situation. But
it's an uncomfortable truth. It's like immigration, like borders, like a lot of the things, religious rights, the freedom to believe, things like that. A lot of these are incredibly discomforting, and then you add in something like pedophilia on top of it. It gets almost too much to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the very fact that it's too much to deal with or that it's hard to talk about means that we need to be having the discussions. And people that are far smarter than me and have significantly more data and experience, but I don't know. It's tough. It's an uncomfortable truth about reality. Minor attracted people exist. That's the starting point.
Some people like to have sex with children,
Yeah.
and that's horrible and it's disgusting. But you're right; it is a fact. And I don't know. That's just strange. You know what it is? It's a quandary because how do you deal with it? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if you've got somebody out there, and even if they're seeking treatment, can they still be viewed as something as a time bomb? Like even if they're seeking treatment, is there still an inherent chance that they're going to cross a line at any given time or given an opportunity? So that kind of muddies it up as well. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to. I don't know how to word it properly because I can I can kind of get my thoughts in order, but I can't quite word it in a way that seems right.
Oh, I know that feeling.
You know, it it just seems I don't know. It would seem like there'd have to be some kind of fail safe involved in that.
So, and I'm actually gonna push back on this a little bit, because across the board, I think that we can only hold people accountable for their actions, not their inclinations. But unfortunately, actions are post hoc. But if you say, for instance, that we should keep a special eye on people who are minor attracted people, and any time that something like that happens, anytime that rights are taken away, you run into the inherent problem of the cascading effect, and so as soon as you do that, then what about gay people, and what about this and what about that, and I can see it getting out of hand, and I personally, and this is just my personal beliefs, that people should only be held accountable for their actions, not their thoughts and not their impulses. And
right,
they should only be held accountable if they act out on their impulses.
I agree. This is all a big thought experiment. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
It's not like I want to have any kind of legislation written. To me, it's just like let's bounce ideas off the wall and see what sticks and what doesn't. But it is a special. It's a different.
Well, I mean,
I don't know. It seems like a different situation than almost any other situation. You know what I'm saying? It's a weird kind of special set of circumstances
with people who have poor empathy circuit, with psychopaths, and that's the closest parallel that I can draw. And they're significantly more apt to be serial killers. But does that mean? But like 1 out of every 100 people is at least somewhere on that range. So do we say that because a person is more likely to do X thing, that we should, in some way, shape, or form, prohibit those people from existing in a free way? And I think unequivocally my answer is no, because at some point in time we all have a higher proclivity to do some sort of injustice, and so where exactly do you draw the line? And I would view pedophilia or minor attraction as a state of being, like being a psychopath or being, whatever. It's just what mental brain states. We no longer view homosexuality as something that's inherently wrong, like we would. But where do you draw those lines?
Consent
and
informed consent,
and consent is definitely where you draw the line for, is this thing permissible under law? But where do you draw the line? Is this a permissible impulse to have? And I think that for me, it boils back down to action. If the person acts out on it or has made plans to act out on it, then they need to be dealt with. But if you're just a minor attracted person, then I feel really sorry for you. Like, I can't imagine being in that frame of mind.
I can't either. But yeah, I mean, you make a solid argument there. Everybody is innocent until they do something that is not permissible. You know what I mean? You're innocent of evil acts until you commit an evil act. So there is that. It's just such a weird quandary of a situation because, like you said, it is so. It's just almost something that's not really polarized. It's like something almost everybody can get on board with.
Yeah.
And so we all kind of come together and collectively say, fuck these people. You know what I mean? It just kind of is the way it is, to the point where you've even got like South Park episodes, where if you remember the episode they made about NAMBLA, where there was another group that was the North American, of course, NAMBLA being the North American Man Boy Love Association. There was another one that was the North American Marlon Brando Impersonators Association or something.
That's the South Park thing, and you got it right, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree totally. And one of the central tenets of, I think, human existence is nothing must be done to harm the children. And if that wasn't so deeply ingrained in us, then we wouldn't have persisted as a species. You have an intrinsic desire to take care of kids, specifically your own kids, but kids in general, And so something that touches on kids and causing them harm is abhorrent, Mm-hmm. But again, we don't put people who are likely to rape on the sex offender list. We put people who have raped.
Yeah,
correct.
And so, I don't know. It's a sticky subject because I think that taking away people's rights is always a sticky subject, even if it's necessary in some cases.
That's true. Well, yeah, because rights are universal. Rights are universal.
Yeah, dude. But if you don't believe in God, then how can you believe in something that's universal?
Gotcha.
It's
Jesus is Lord. Jesus is the reason for the season, dude. What do you want me to say?
You
Stop it, SJ.
You can't even
Stop
have
it,
a
SJ.
system. You don't
Duke
believe in
Bonanza
God.
exposed closet Christian.
Closet Christian. I get all slippery when Jesus comes up. What can I say?
Oh, come on now. Pre or post?
Please don't come now.
I will refrain until after the stream is over. Thanks.
All right. Well, just make sure you got a towel ready to clean yourself up.
Damp on one side and dry on the other. Oh no, it gets weird when I'm involved, doesn't it? Yeah. Speaking of SJ, we were talking briefly yesterday. I was trying to have a conversation with Nacha, but my truck is damaged, and I was in my truck. He couldn't hear me. But did you guys see the thing where the young lady said her mom had told her that she hoped she was having surgery soon? Her mom told her she hoped she had a near-death experience and stopped being an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephanie had this extraordinarily just callous response to it, like get back to us and let us know what happens or something like that. And I called her out on it.
Wow.
I called her out on it pretty heavy-handedly, and she immediately jumped to, "You're strawmanning me. That's not what I meant."
I saw that series of tweets.
So what blows my mind about SJ is and I don't think that SJ meant that in the way that it should have been taken. I don't think that she actually hoped that the girl had a near-death experience. At least at the onset. I thought, dang, what an unfortunate wording. But I've said stupid stuff too. And then I saw Duke's reply, and to which SJ said, "Now you're strawmanning me," which is not the answer. If I said something that abhorrently stupid and somebody said, "Oh, I took it like this," I would say, "My deepest apologies. That's not what I meant. Let me go delete that tweet and rectify the situation." Then I thought, as I read down the series of tweets, I thought, this lady's, if you didn't mean it that way, then why not correct yourself? And just because I've said plenty of stupid stuff over the years, like an inordinate amount of things that got taken wrong. And my immediately response, if somebody didn't catch my point clearly, is not to cry some logical fallacy, is to assume that I didn't make my point clearly, and apologize for it.
Well, in my defense, also, my initial response was, "Wait, what? Are you serious?" And I left it for a very long time before I finally said, "Are you going to respond to this?" To which she gave me some like, well, I only respond to things that are actual questions. So that's when I started hammering down on it. And at any given point, she could have said, well, what I actually meant was ...
Yeah.
dot.
That's
To
what
which
blew
my
me away about
response
the
would have been,
exchange.
yeah, what my response to that would have been, well, you probably should have worked on your wording a little bit because I'm not the only one that took it that way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And
Like,
it could definitely be construed that way. And whenever I read it, I was like, what the crap? And then I thought, well, maybe she didn't mean it. Now, after reading everything, I thought, maybe she did mean it. You know? But it's like her Christianity cures depression. You know?
yes.
I nailed her to the wall on that one. And finally got to admit that that it doesn't cure depression, it can help. And she kind of namby-pambied around. And my question was, make it a public statement. You know, you're saying things that could potentially harm people. You know, you're playing with people's mental health. Somebody that is clinically depressed thinks that Christianity is going to cure all their woes, and then they end up harming themselves or harming others. Like, you're not playing with beliefs here. You're playing with real things. And she would not make a public correction to that tweet. You know, she never went back and corrected it, which lets me know exactly where her beliefs actually lie. Like, she stood behind it, but whenever nailed to the wall, she wants to kind of weasel a little bit.
Well, I kind of get the impression, I hate to say it, but I kind of get the impression that SJ's a little reality challenged, shall we say. The more I'm looking at her, the more I get the impression that she needs help.
Like, so I've got a pet theory that it's just a pet theory. Like, I'm not going to say that this is like something that's absolutely true, but in the back of my mind, I have a sneaking suspicion that she'll make these statements, and sometimes she'll do them innocuously, it seems, or she'll leave enough ambiguity in it that it can be dialed back. And she'll jump into some atheist thread and say something. And then whenever she gets slammed, she'll jump back and be like, I'm being strawmanned, I'm being persecuted. Look at these hateful atheists, how mean they are to me. I've seen that pattern of behavior in her a few times, like more than once, where it's like, where she's vying for attention and she's trying to vilify us and she's baiting us to do it. That seems to be something that I've seen her, like if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not saying it's not an assertion, it's a suspicion. Mm-hmm. But I'm suspicious that that's something that she's done and is doing. You know, to the sense, like, she went, like, I remember, like, a while back, she jumped into a Heathen Hour chat, and some people started getting uglier with her in the chat, and I shut them down, personally. I was like, stop that. Attack her ideas, but let her be here, let her say what she wants to say, but we don't need to immediately start calling her a hag and all this stuff the minute she shows up, you know, for multiple reasons, for a myriad of reasons. And they both agreed to stop. But before that even she could even have time to read that, she jumped out of the chat talking about, oh, I only got in there for as long as I could, and they're so hateful and mean that I couldn't stay. And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
And I responded to her on that too, where I was like, no, you can totally come back. I shut that down.
Yeah,
like, you can come in here.
I think, well, persecution complex runs deep in Christianity anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're basically required to be persecuted. I mean, Jesus himself said, if they persecuted me, they'll persecute you too. You know, and
behold, I send you out as lambs amidst the wolves.
Yeah. No, that it's definitely. I suspect that about SJ too. Originally, I was kind of hoping that, like, her repeats of the genocide, you know, did God command genocide and things like that, were her attempting to square a circle peg in her head, that these things were bothering her, and so she was trying to work through the apologetics of them to reinforce her beliefs. But the more that I follow her, the more I believe that, it's just she knows that she will get a rise out of the atheist community if she posts something about genocide. And so she's going to post crap about genocide frequently. And the same thing with depression and all the other hot button topics. You know, I was probably overly optimistic about her intentions, but
I gave her the benefit of the doubt for a long time. For a very long time, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. And I just am less and less doing that. It just seems.
and that's the thing. And what blows my mind about it is like talk to somebody that's reformed. Yeah, genocide, fine. God commanded it. Who cares?
Yeah.
Slavery, great. As permitted by the Bible, still okay today. You know, somebody that actually holds to the dang book.
And
try to pin Cy down on genocide.
Yeah.
And he's going to say it wasn't genocide because it was commanded by God.
And of all
and that's
people,
going to be the end of the conversation.
And of all people, try arguing slavery with G-Man. This is what really gets me is that the black folk who state that slavery in the Bible just fine because God did it, when they've got the slavery in their recent ancestry, why aren't they doing this? I don't get it.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because back when Trump was running, and there was like this meme of some gay people holding up a sign that said "Gay people for Trump." And then
I saw that sign.
Somebody put the thing underneath it that said "Muggles for Voldemort."
Yeah.
And the first thing I jumped to, because I used to sing in a gay choir, and a lot of those folks are deeply, deeply religious. And that first thing that jumped to my mind is that's exactly how I feel whenever somebody tells me that they're gay and they're like really heavy religious. It's like you're sidling up to the party of people that want to abolish you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One girl I know, something of a friend, would always be saying, "Am I sinning by being what I am?" She's trans, and over you would hear this out of her. But if you would suggest that maybe she could reconsider her religious stance, it's no. I'll never do that. I'll never turn my back on religion. And Emma, religion is one of
Why
the
not?
things that's causing you a problem. Why not turn your back on it? I don't
Yeah, I
get
don't
it.
get it
I don't
either.
get it at all.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It doesn't make sense to me. And um, it's just because even if you go, like I've said it before, like even if you go to the like super hippy dippy liberal churches, right?
Hmm.
The big band deal where they've got thousands of members and everybody's really super loving and it's just about Jesus and all that kind of stuff. You'll still see, like every time I used to have to go to a church like that with my ex, and every time I would go, it seemed like that would be the Sunday that awful jackass would decide to talk about gay people. Every time. I don't know if he just talked about gay people in every service or if it was just that freaking, he just had some psychic ability to know that I was going to be there. And I would just sit there and seethe through the entire thing. And to the point where like, I was pretty good buddies with a guy that went to the church and worked at the church. And he talked me down from like emailing that dude like 5 or 6 times. He was like, just talk to me about it. And I didn't want to create an issue for my ex-wife either because she went to church there and she was a member. And it was one of those things where it's like, am I going to get in here? I'm not going to solve anything. I'm not changing the dude's mind, you know, but I did. I had a script written. I was working on it. I was refining it. I was going to slam the fool out of this guy because he did this thing that I absolutely despise. Like the guy, like, I don't respect him, but I at least sort of admire not admire, it's the wrong word. I guess appreciate the guys that have the courage of their damn convictions to the point where they're just not going to make an apology for it. This is where I stand. And if you don't like it, suck it. You know, he would
Oh
take this
boy.
like I don't know how to say it. Like, to me, it's at least honest. Does that make sense? At least they're being honest about what they
Yeah.
believe. They're not
Oh, I
trying
get
to
it.
No,
defeat.
I get it.
The way that I put that is I respect the person's honesty to their personal beliefs. You know,
Right.
because
It's
if
a
you
tricky
believe
thing.
something, but if you believe something, come out and say it. You know, if you think that gay people should be stoned, then come out and say it. Don't hide behind some lame apologetic.
Like
That's why I've got a
Matt
lot
Powell.
more. I've got a lot more respect for people across the board who are honest, even if their beliefs are more abhorrent than say moderates. I would rather have a dialogue with somebody who is honest with their beliefs, regardless
Well,
of the
yeah.
implications of them.
Well, yeah, because the underbelly of the moderate is just as hateful as the outright bigot. They're the same damn person. Because this guy would do this mealy-mouthed, wishy-washy, don't come at me about this. It's in the Bible. If you have a problem, take it up with God. And it's like, no, you're standing in front of me with a self-prescribed authority to speak in the name of God. So if you're going to say it, I'm going to hold you accountable to it, and you can take it up with God. How about that?
Well, morality is necessarily personal, and you don't get to advocate your moral intuitions to some other deity. Sorry, that's just not something that you get to do. You're saying it, you believe it, you choose to believe it.
You're accountable to it.
You are accountable to it. You do not get to advocate your moral intuitions. Sorry about that. And that's a conversation that I've had many times with people who have abhorrent beliefs, both Christian and not. You know, you can't pawn your beliefs off on some other deity because it's convenient. You don't like gay people. Period.
Yeah. I mean,
you want to see them as second-class citizens. You want them oppressed with the law, by the system. You want to take away their rights. You want to do these things, right? And just because it says it in the Bible does not give you the right to duck out and say it's not my fault. I'm not the one that came up with the idea. No, but you're the one conforming to it.
Yep.
You're the one waving the Bible around while you say it. And if you didn't believe that, if you did think it was abhorrent, you would not be waving that Bible. You'd be waving the Principia Discordia or something.
Right. Well, it's at the end of the day.
Book.
At the end of the day, that's one of the reasons why. It's one of the reasons that I loved losing my faith so much. Like, there's a myriad of reasons, but just the fact that I no longer had to hate people or maybe not always hate, but like view people with distrust and disgust and just all these different things just because of who they were. I could all of a sudden start judging things based on character and not on identity. And
well, yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from, because for me, and the way that I would describe it is I no longer have personal contradictions with the way that I believe and the way that I essentially believe. You know, because if I believe there's nothing wrong with gay people and I'm a Christian, then that's a contradiction. And whenever you lose your faith, whenever you lose a supreme ideology, things that, you know, questions that can't be asked and things that can't be thought, suddenly you no longer have those contradictory beliefs. You know, I don't have to wonder. I don't have to wonder about the accounts in Genesis and how that squares with evolution. I can just say, hey, evolution's true. There's no more contradictions in my personal belief system or my personal operating system.
Okay, and if you have to interject a holy book, all you're actually doing is adding questions. You're not answering shit.
Yeah, and I think, and this was what was particularly hard, and it'll probably be what my first YouTube video is about. Whenever I lost my faith, so much of my human operating system, if you will, was tied up in things that were written in the holy book, things that I just took for granted that I was told from childhood on. And so I think that, at least for me, as a new atheist or as a new non-believer, rebuilding my personal belief system was incredibly difficult, because so much of it I didn't have to think about. It was just there, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I think that it's definitely one of those things that I struggled with immensely, you know, and you flirt with nihilism and all of these other things, but whenever basically the scaffolding that holds up your existence falls away, and all of a sudden you have to generate your own meaning and your own belief system, it's incredibly difficult. It was for me, and you know, some
me too.
people have no problem, you know.
But it's very rewarding at the same time.
Yeah, it is. Once you get through, it's so much better, you know, and there's so many unexpected benefits to a non-belief. Like for me personally, death anxiety was a crippling existential crisis that happened for the majority of my faith career. Whenever I became an atheist, that disappeared. Like, I'm done. Whenever I die, I'm done, and that's it. You know,
it's kind of funny though.
Yeah,
you talk about death. Sometimes I catch myself thinking, what will it be like when I'm dead? And then I have to laugh at myself, because there's going to be no me to appreciate any of it. It's not going to be like anything. I don't fear death. I fear dying. If you get the
I understand completely.
I do not want
Yep.
to know that I'm dying while I'm dying. I do not want it to be painful or otherwise uncomfortable, and it's probably going to be both. It's just the way things work, unfortunately.
But to get back to you on the thing where you're talking about when you're losing your faith and you're losing your identity, and all of a sudden you have to go back and reevaluate almost every belief you have, because everything, so much of yourself is tied up into this belief system that it's almost an intrinsic part of you at that point. A friend of mine once asked me, he was a Christian guy, he asked me what it was like becoming an atheist, like how did that affect that? And the analogy I use is like, imagine if you had an itch on your face, right? And you start scratching it. And then it spreads, and you scratch and scratch and scratching at this itch, and now it's all over your face. You're scratching like a madman to get rid of it, and then eventually it stops itching, and you have to, so you can stop scratching at it. But when you look in the mirror, there's no face there anymore. You're not there anymore. You know what I mean? Like who you were is utterly gone, and now you have to find yourself all completely over again.
Mm. And I kind of forget what that was like, because I threw Catholicism away so long ago. I was maybe 10 or 11 when the process started. It's really great to be reminded of what you go through when you get rid of your religion.
It's something that I'm still going through to some degree, and it's
Yeah,
probably why it's a hot topic in my brain right now, is because I'm constantly reevaluating the way that I navigate through existence, and I'm on pretty stable ground for the most part, but there for a while it was pretty go. The call towards total nihilism is seductive.
It is.
And so I don't know, that it's a tangent topic, but that's basically been what the stream's about anyway. So,
well, I more or less say that if you take what I actually believe about life, death, the universe, and everything, like the ultimate stopping point for that, like where the buck stops, is nihilism. But that's useless to me. So instead of nihilism, I adopt secular humanism, because it's actually something I could use to navigate and judge ethics and use my empathy to a reasonable guideline.
So and that's one of those crazy things that I realized after the fact is that until you solve the problem of hard solipsism, that's everybody's belief system whenever you push it to its limits. And I like using the analogy of different levels of resolution or concentric circles. If you go out to the very extreme, of course, it's going to be nihilistic. Until you can prove that you're not a brain in a vat, and nobody can, until you can solve hard solipsism, then you can't make an objective claim that things are not totally dependent on you and things that are not totally meaningless. But that doesn't matter, because that's not the way that we live our lives. Nobody does.
There you go.
I don't believe in free will as a abstract concept. I believe in degrees of freedom and things like that. But I don't wake up in the morning and go, hey, what is this pile of chemicals in my brain going to want for breakfast? No, I look in the fridge and I go, well, I want, pancakes or eggs. So, yeah, I think...
You don't have both at once?
No, that's heresy.
Oh, come on now.
No, come on.
Pancake, sausage, eggs, and spam.
Oh, there you go. Fried spam is delicious.
Fried spam, the texture. I don't know. It's a textural thing for me.
It's delicious.
Fried bologna now.
Jesus.
Fried bologna is delicious also.
Yes, absolutely.
Grits.
Oh, my word.
Grits.
The Atlanta RGs that I used to go to, regional gatherings, I used to be a member of Mensa back when I could afford the cost of admission. We would always have grits sculptures, because there was one Sunday breakfast where I think they were cheese grits. They were so bad nobody could eat them, so they started playing with them, and did sculptures and everything else with these cheese grits. So it finally got to the point where it was a regular occurrence on Sunday mornings. You would have the grit sculptures going. This strange thing you just reminded me of. Thank you.
If you can't cook a decent pot of grits, you ought to be kicked out of the South.
Yeah,
Just to throw that out there.
absolutely true.
You got to get it right, man. But
As
yeah,
far
I
as
love freaking grits.
No,
as
they're the
far as
greatest.
cheap ass restaurants went, Po Folks was pretty good for the grits. I don't know if you guys know
I believe it.
about Po Folks.
I'm not familiar with
That
it.
was a restaurant in
No.
South Carolina. It was a chain, and one of the restaurants of that chain was right by the motel I was staying in when I was working in South Carolina. So I
We're at in
got to
South
know their
Carolina.
food. Say again?
We're at in South Carolina.
A small town called Pickens near Spartanburg.
Oh, okay. I've been up to Greenville a couple times. I lived in South Carolina for a very long time. And I think I actually do know the restaurant you're talking about. I think I've actually been to that restaurant.
The one by, I don't know if it's still there, by the Travel Lodge.
No. I would if I went to one, it would probably have been in Charleston. But I think there was one in Charleston that I
Oh,
went
but
to.
you're saying you know the chain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I got you now. It took a little while to get through my thick skull here. Yeah, they didn't have that bad food. It was okay. I didn't mind it.
Yeah. Speaking of fried bologna, man, the best way to have fried bologna to me is in a sandwich.
Yeah, oh,
Cut your cut,
absolutely.
cut your
And
bologna on the edges so that it doesn't curl up when you fry it.
I was just
Fry
going
it
to
up
tell
in the
you that. You
pan.
have to do that, yes.
Throw it on some bread, some toasted bread with some lettuce and some. I like to take mayonnaise and mix it with relish
Yep.
and make like a pickle mayonnaise and put it on
Oh,
top
your
of
own
that,
tartar sauce, more or less.
more or less.
I'm really hungry now, guys. Really.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was hungry whenever I
Same.
started this
Oh,
thing.
you have us to thank.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to go
Actually,
make some grits.
what I've got to do later is make up some soup. I've got the stuff for lentil soup. And hi, Don. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Don?
I heard fried bologna, so I came.
Jeez.
Don't
Literally?
don't get your screen all messed up, please don't.
I should maybe stop that stream and it'll sound better.
I've got lentil soup to make.
I love
I'll get
lentil
to that
soup.
at one point or another. I had made a pot about a week ago, and it wasn't quite what I was after. And I was thinking hard and asking about what am I missing here? And somebody suggested cumin, and it's like, why didn't I think of that in the first place? So now I have to make another pot of lentil soup with the cumin and make sure that it's still not missing anything.
Oh, you can come cook for me if you want.
Okay.
I've got 2 teenage girls living with me now, so
Oh,
I
really?
cook a lot.
Okay, wait a minute. 2 teenage girls. Your daughter is one of them. Do you have another teenage daughter?
Foster daughter now.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've been a little out of the loop myself, so I really don't know what anybody's doing.
yeah. I don't know if I'm out of the loop or not, but I'm just loopy.
Okay, sounds familiar. Sounds familiar.
No, you got teenagers living with you. I already told you you're screwed.
You're better than I. Let me tell you, I don't think I could do it. It takes something really, 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 really special to be a parent. I didn't have it. I knew it. So I got my tubes tied, kids.
Yeah. I have an 18-year-old that lives in the house with me. He's a pretty sweet kid for the most part. And most of the time, he's good. But every once in a while, that teenage tendency to know everything in the world comes out of him.
Oh, yeah. I just saw recently a sign somewhere. Hire a teenager while they still know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mr. Southerner?
That's me, Evans. You can call me.
Nice to
I
meet
guess
you. I don't think
nice to meet you as
I've ever
well.
spoke before.
No, I'm a new person to this
Well,
community.
Oh,
Yeah, I've
man.
kind of seen you around a little bit, but pleasure.
There I went again. I started reaching for my pipe, and it was like, no, I put that away in August. So I still do that every now and then. still reach for it. And it's like, no, I actually wanted to quit this time, so I went and did it. But the cravings are still there.
The weather's just now cooling off here, so I'm just now starting to get the urge to smoke my pipe again.
Oh, so you don't smoke it during the summer?
Hardly at all, because I
Okay.
don't smoke inside, and I live in Satan's armpit. So it's got to be a perfect evening to actually smoke it. But whenever it cools off through the winter, that's your cats in the background are fantastic, by the way. That little sucker climbing the curtains there is just amazing.
Oh, is she doing the curtains again?
Yeah, no.
Sylvia, will you get down?
No, don't scold her. That's the
Stop
greatest
looking
thing
at
ever.
Diana's pussy.
The main reason I put the tiebacks up was because she was climbing the curtains. The drapery themselves are tied back. You should see those shears. They are more sheer now than they ever were because they're perforated like a claymore blew up in its direction. She's a good kitty. If all goes well, she's going to have a friend next week. We'll see how that goes. So I definitely have to take her to the local vet and take care of some things that I should have taken care of a while ago, but
You don't have scissors?
I don't trust myself with them. Don't you know you shouldn't trust me with scissors? Come on. No, it's a male, and I'm pretty sure he's intact. And anyway, I've been wanting every time she goes into heat. It's like, yeah, I know, I really should because it's presenting to the bicycle, presenting to the computers, presenting to my foot, and it's like, damn, I remember being that horny. That was a long time ago. I forget anymore. I don't know if I'd remember how.
You just place it in your hand.
Yeah, I still have it, so you can do. Yeah, TMI.
This broadcast got away from me so fast.
Demonetized. Pawn showed up.
This will be the last one I'm invited to for sure.
That's interesting because usually it's my fault. I'm usually the culprit.
Yeah, you're safe this time, Duke.
I think Duke and I are the derail masters.
Yeah, I'm giving you.
And you put us together, I don't think anybody has a chance. But I actually did draw Mohammed, so damn it.
I did too. I'm not showing it again because I'm not turning my fucking camera back on.
Don, do you have a Mohammed?
I did not draw Mohammed because I live in Canada.
Out now.
Oh man, come on.
That's true, yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to. But really, this is educational, right? That's why it's happening. So if it's educational, showing people what not to do in countries that banned it.
Yes. Definitely do not protest by drawing or calling Mohammed a pedophile. Because he definitely fucked a 9-year-old.
Right.
I don't know if I'd call any part of this stream educational.
Well, you get to learn how depraved people can be.
That seems to be a bit of a stretch. But
It's you got a low bar for education if you consider this educational.
I am from Alabama.
Well, this is America.
I'll be right back.
Evan, you did drop some serious knowledge when you were talking about pedophilia, like the whole actions versus thoughts. That was awesome.
Oh, I appreciate it, buddy.
That's exactly how I feel about it as well. Because, I mean, how many of us have thought, oh, I want to kill that guy? Right?
Yes, exactly.
And how many of us should be thrown in prison for thinking of murder? None of us, right? Well,
I mean, if it were a crime, definitely me. But
Oh yes, the murderous thoughts that I have sometimes are daunting.
but they're just thoughts.
There we go.
Well, I mean, as if you're what controls your thoughts. I mean, like, really, let's boil down to it. 90% of the crap that goes through your head, the sense of agency that you are has nothing to do with it. Like, just observe yourself thinking for a little while and just see how screwed up your thought process can be. How little control you have over it.
Well, it depends on which voice is talking at the time, right?
Well, I mean, it's one of those, and I'm in the big middle of studying mindfulness across the board, so it's a relatively recent topic for me. But observing yourself think is extremely difficult. But that's basically the central thesis to Buddhism and other mindful practices. And anybody interested, I would recommend a good starter for it would be 10% Happier by Dan Harris. It's a very, very good book. It's wittily written. It's approached from a very skeptical point of view, and he makes a lot of fun of Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra. So
I've achieved that once.
That's a reason to buy the book just right there.
I've actually achieved that once, though, in meditation, where I was actually sitting and just observing my thoughts as they happened with absolute just what's the word I'm looking for? Without emotion.
Yeah,
passionate.
So I used to do martial arts, and meditation was part of the practice. And so I know, it's amazing how quickly you can lose your edge. Because used to be I could get into at least a good concentrative, mindfulness, focusing on your breath, or like a meditation kind of mantra. Used to be able to do that easy, and a couple of times I'm trying to remember the word for it, but the state of observing one's thoughts, where you count thoughts per second or thoughts per minute.
Martial arts.
Now that I've started actually trying to meditate again, I'm abysmal at it. But no, it's scary to realize just how little control you actually have over your agency.
Martial arts.
So what now?
Would martial arts involve drawing a pistol?
Actually,
you can kill me now.
with ours, my trainer used to teach private military contractors, so we actually did pistols and stuff like that. But that's kind of a tangent anyway. But no,
what discipline did you study?
It was a discipline of taijutsu, Budo taijutsu. It's a
heard of it.
Little known. Essentially, it's Shinken taijutsu and other real world martial arts.
I was going to ask if it was a hybrid study.
So whenever I originally did it, whenever I started, it was significantly more traditional. It was Bujinkan Budo Taijutsu, which is a very ancient Japanese martial art. But then it evolved, and my practice evolved into more real world stuff. But then got married and had a couple of kids, and don't do that anymore. And now I'm fat and out of shape and can't meditate. So
tell me about fat and out of shape, will you?
But I'm significantly more content now.
Guys, but I've got someone on their way here, so I got to run. B, thanks for the invite. Sorry I couldn't stay long.
Yeah, thanks for stopping in. I actually think I'm gonna end it now because all this talk of food has me really.
Yeah, I'm about to start
wanting to eat.
Well, so we look at the clock, and it's been going for something over 2 hours.
Yeah.
No way.
And one of the things you do want to remember is if you want the live stream to be watchable into the future, it's usually a good idea to keep it around an hour, 90 minutes, something like that. If it goes too long, nobody wants to watch it again. So
that might be good in this case.
those 7-hour live streams don't get many extra views, Don?
No, they get maybe 20 minutes worth of view time, and that's
Mhm.
about it.
So they don't get to see the parts where somebody brings up a picture of a guy wearing nothing more than an AR-15 and a Colt sidearm.
Exactly.
I remember that one.
Yeah,
Oh.
I gotta start doing streams again. Kim and I have been doing streams on mental health, but even that's
Ooh.
been put on hold. We've missed a couple weeks now because she's got things going on in her life, and I the reason why I have my daughter and foster child with me is there was an alleged sexual assault happened,
Ooh.
and they needed to be out of the house. So,
Okay.
yeah, I got myself approved as a foster parent right away and have them here.
Well,
Landlord
that's a
was
good
nice
thing
enough
then.
to give me another room so that I have a little more room here.
Yeah, I was going to say with three of you in the space you had, that would have been a little tight.
It was very tight, but with this extra room, I got all my stuff into this room. The girls have that area, so it's not too bad.
Okay. As long as things are working out well, that's a very good thing.
They're working out.
Yay.
Yay. All
Thanks for
right.
the invite, B. It was a
Yeah.
fantastic stream. I thought I had fun. So
Oh yeah.
I had fun too. I'm
Duke and I
curious to
did.
know, I'm curious to know if we're going to get yelled at about any of the things that we said. But
Probably.
Probably.
our conversation has had the propensity to get us yelled at by everybody.
You got it.
Oh.
And if
Well,
you don't,
before I stop the broadcast, can everybody go around and talk about your channels real quick? I'm going to link all of them
yay.
in a comment, but just give like a brief overview of what you guys do.
Okay, who wants to go first?
You.
You go first.
Okay. I am the Lavender Lady. I actually go by Diana Clarion, but my channel name is the Lavender Lady. I do response videos mostly. Catholic Answers has been one of my favorite targets. I also appear on Side Strike's movie night. If anybody ever wants to have a whole lot of fun listening to stupid videos being debunked point by point, please come on down to movie night. Side does a really great show. It's at midnight Eastern, Friday to Saturday, that midnight. So fool around with your time zones from there. I happen to be there, and that's not why I'm. No, you don't believe that, do you? It is not why I'm pushing it. Next, before I get myself into more trouble.
All right. So is this time for somebody else to go?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
All right. I am the Duke of all Bonanzas. I act like a jerk-faced boo-boo head to Theus on Twitter. That's what I do. And make an ass of myself on streams. That's that's essentially my
You
internet career.
didn't do that here.
Not here, but it's happening.
You're jerk
Uh,
too, though, Duke. So that's why we love you. Opportunity.
I have a blog. I have a blog at dukebonanza.com that I don't write on nearly as often as I should. And that's about it on me.
Cool.
All right, Don.
Evan?
I asked first.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute. I thought you were the super
Wow.
public speaker dude.
I am. That's why I'm going last.
How old are you guys again?
Well,
28.
I'm Don from Another Freaking Atheist. I'm on YouTube. YouTube stuff slowed down a lot, and hopefully we'll pick up soon. And I'm Don Micho on Twitter. That's about that. Nothing more to say, Evan. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm Evans Murphy. My YouTube channel will be Faithless Southerner. You can follow me at faithlesssouth at faithlesssouth on Twitter. I have a blog, faithlesssoutherner.com. The YouTube doesn't have any content yet. That will be changing very rapidly. And I will cover everything we're not supposed to talk about on my channel, including religion and politics.
All right.
Yay.
So yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. Everybody who has made it this far, definitely follow everyone on my panel. I would greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure they would too. If you want to put up a picture on Twitter of your drawing of Mohammed, please do, and tag us, because I'm sure we'd all love to see it. But that's going to do it for this one, so I'll see you all later on.
And
Much love, everybody.
And for peace sake, like and subscribe.